He turned a New York brewery into the best restaurant in the world. But the real story is how unreasonable hospitality can change your life and happiness. Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Today, we are speaking with Will Guidara.
It's Will Guidara.
Will Guidara.
Will Guidara.
The visionary restaurateur who redefined the dining experience.
He built a restaurant called 11 Madison Park that became
the #1 restaurant in the world.
Can you share a story of a time that you brought someone happiness from being unreasonably hospitable?
My daughter, who was 3 at the time, looked at the breakers and she said, "Oh my God, is that where Elsa lives?" That I soon came to regret. I said, "Yeah, that is Elsa's house." And I said to him under my breath, "Tell my daughter Frankie."
I think everyone needs to hear that.
Created a moment of magic.
When you were a kid, you kept journals?
Yeah.
So tell us more about this. What did you write and what was kind of behind these journals?
Perspective has an expiration date. No matter how long you try to hold on to it, you will lose it. And journaling...
I feel like that changes how I think about it.
What's a lesson or philosophy from the hotel and restaurant industry that we can apply to our own daily life?
I think it does not matter what you do for a living, you can make the choice to be in the hospitality industry. Simply by choosing to...
Whoa. Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Will.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to spend time with the two of you.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
Thank you. We are huge fans of you and your business and your work, and we're just so excited to have you on today. You're a successful author, restaurateur, and TV show producer. So take us back a little bit. How did you get here today, and what inspired you to pursue this career path?
So for my entire life until about 5 years ago, I was just a restaurateur. That's all I did. And it's all that honestly I've ever wanted to do. My dad was in the restaurant business. So it's what I grew up seeing him do. And my dad and I are very close. He was like my hero growing up. My mother was diagnosed with brain cancer when I was a kid and was a quadriplegic for most of my life. And so my dad was this superhero to me. He had a successful career. He was a good caretaker of her. He was a great father of me. And so I was always in awe of him. And I honestly don't think it would have mattered what he did for a living. That's the thing that I would have wanted to do. It just so happened, though, that I fell in love with it. I used to go to work with him every Saturday because when you have a family member who works in restaurants, if you want to spend time with them, you go to work with them. And so I grew up within the walls of restaurants, and I was always just mesmerized by the energy of them. I think in restaurants you can bear witness to all of life's experiences happening simultaneously within the same 4 walls. There's this chaos, but it's also like a symphony of noises and emotions and relationships. And from a very early age, I knew that is what I wanted to do. And so it's all I did until I sold my company just a couple months before COVID. Then I wrote the book, and the book did well. And then I ended up producing and writing for The Bear. And now I have a company that does all sorts of weird, fun stuff. But the connective tissue that ties together everything we do is that we believe in the power of creativity and intention in pursuit of relationships and hospitality, and believe that has this unbelievably enriching power in the world.
That is so beautiful. First of all, I just want to say I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. That's so difficult at such a young age for you as well. But I think it's so wonderful how I guess that kind of brought you and your dad so close. I think that's such a powerful relationship. I know that we are very close as a family as well, and I know that that's such a magical thing to have.
Wait, are you guys sisters?
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing. I love that you're doing this together.
Thank you. Yes, so we've gotten much closer
Yes, definitely.
over the couple of years here. But I think I love that you looked up to your dad so much and, learned from him and spent so much time with him at the business. I think that's so beautiful. And I guess, what would you say was the biggest thing that your dad taught you, like in terms of your mindset and your habits today?
My gosh, my dad has taught me a lot. I quote my dad often. One of his quotes that I repeat frequently is that adversity is a terrible thing to waste, which you already highlighted in acknowledging the devastation that was my mom's condition, but the silver lining that is the closeness of my relationship with him. And I can point to so many things over the course of my life and career. The moments that feel the most difficult are nearly always ones that I look back on with gratitude because they led to something even more beautiful. And that is the case with business and in life. Another one, my dad is he uses the word intention constantly. This idea that nothing happens in the absence of intention. Rather, no great things happen in the absence of intention. That whether it's a relationship you want to pursue or an accomplishment that you want to have under your belt, a goal that you're trying to accomplish, right? Like, if every step along the way is pursued with intention, it's remarkable how far you can go. And then I'd say the last one, he's just someone that is kind of an epitome of integrity. One of the greatest pieces of advice he gave me a long time ago was, we are all faced with countless difficult decisions in life. And if you make the choice early on that at every crossroads, you're going to ask yourself what right looks like, and just do that, you don't really ever have to make a difficult decision again, because while so many things are somewhat gray, the difference between right and wrong is normally pretty black and white.
That's so beautiful. I think it's really amazing how your father taught you so many life lessons, but I think oftentimes, like, our parents are able to teach us things, but it takes us a long time, or like, it can be very difficult to identify it and then say, okay, this is kind of the lesson from it. So I think it's really beautiful how you've been able to identify and kind of pull from your experiences with your father and what he was able to teach you. And I know you talked a lot about intention, but what does being intentional mean to you? And how can anyone, like teens, be more intentional?
Well, I think it's a matter of with what goal. So hospitality is the underlying thesis of everything that I do. And one of my favorite definitions of hospitality is that it is about being creative and intentional in pursuit of relationships. And so I think when you're intentional in pursuit of someone, that means that you are fully present when you're with them. And I define being present as making the choice to care so much about the person in front of you that you choose to stop caring about everything else you need to do, or to ignore all the other things that will distract you. And for many young people, that might mean putting down your phone for long enough that you can actually lose yourself in a conversation. It means actively listening to what the other person is saying so that you can pick up on what you hear and then do something with that information. I think in marriage, it's waking up every single day and making the choice to pursue that person, to not take the relationship for granted. I think with fitness, it's creating practices. With journaling and reflection, the same is true, right? It's effectively about giving yourself the time to decide what you want to accomplish, thinking long and hard about the best way to accomplish that thing, and then committing to doing those things consistently.
I absolutely adore your definition for hospitality, because I think as, teenagers or people who aren't so familiar with that term, like, we might think of it, like, I've always considered it, for a long time I considered it like, when you're hosting somebody or having an event in your house or at a restaurant. But I love how your definition of it is really so applicable to everyday life, right? Like being hospitable to a friend, to a loved one, even to yourself in your own self-improvement journey, in your relationship to your own self. I think that is such a powerful definition to it, because it's true. Like, I think in our world where there's always 10,000 distractions, something else that we could be thinking about or doing, when someone, a friend, a family member, takes the time to really be present in your conversation, in your interaction, it means the world, and we notice it because, we've spoken to so many happiness, like, researchers and psychologists on Hack Your Happiness, and I mean, connection, social connection is such a key component to feeling happy in everyday life. And so I love like the way that you go about that and what you share with the world through hospitality for that.
No, thank you for that. I mean, listen, I think hospitality is not an industry; it's a state of mind, right? And you talk about social connection. Yeah, social connection is all about the depth of relationship, and hospitality is about just choosing to care about the people around you in little ways or big ways. And the more that you feel invested in by another person, the more you're inclined to want to invest in them in return. And that doesn't mean through like presents or even acts of service. It just means that that person is doing the work to show you that you matter. And I think that's something that we all crave.
Absolutely. Going out of your way to, identify what the other person's doing. And I love also how you mentioned, I feel like being intentional is more like noticing what's actually in front of you and being able to appreciate that instead of constantly, and it's so easy nowadays to kind of always be thinking about like what everybody else has and kind of like, oh, my friend has, that and I kind of want that too. Instead, you can notice, like, I have this great relationship with my sister. I can appreciate that even, when we're having a bit of an argument.
Yeah, for sure.
When you think about, like, let's just use your relationship. Yeah, I think the comparing ourselves and the things that we have to other people is a never-ending path towards dissatisfaction in life. Because there's always going to be someone with more money. There's always going to be someone whose parents have more money. And it's not very hard to go out and buy a new thing. That doesn't take very long at all. But when you consistently, over time, graciously and generously invest in the relationship between the two of you, that's something that no one can ever have, right? And those are the things that honestly matter more than any of the other stuff. But it takes discipline and willpower because stuff is shiny and it's fun, and we are like, part of our human condition is to long for the things we don't have as opposed to choosing to celebrate the things we do.
Absolutely. I think that is 100% so true. And I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you were a kid, you kept journals. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us more about this. What did you write and what was kind of behind these journals?
I think reflection is one of the most powerful things we can do. And I think of journaling as reflecting on the day. Through reflection, you can celebrate the things that you did well so that you can hold on to those things and continue to do them well. Athletes always go to the tapes when they've had a bad game. They don't often enough go to the tapes when they've had a good game to see what they did well to make sure that they keep on doing that thing. That's how you put intention to intuition, and reflection allows you to do that. Reflection allows you to process the things that you've learned. I think we learn more than we realize, and if we allow ourselves to reflect on the day, we can hold on to those lessons more effectively. Reflection allows you to identify the things that you're not proud of having done, such that you give yourself the opportunity to apologize for having done them the next day. And reflection allows you to hold on to your perspective, because, I'll use a work example here, but the best leaders are those that have a genuine sense of empathy for everyone that they're leading. And so I owned restaurants, but years and years ago, I was a busboy, and then I was a server, and then I was a bartender, and then I was a manager. And if I have the ability to tap into the perspective of the people in those roles, I'll be a much better leader by virtue of having done so. But perspective has an expiration date. No matter how long you try to hold on to it, you will lose it. And journaling and being able to reread your notes years later allows you to lead with greater empathy.
That is terrific.
I love that. I'm also a big journaler. I love journaling. I don't do it every day. I know I probably should, but it's a really beautiful way, and my favorite thing to do sometimes is to kind of go back and like reread old entries, and you're really able to kind of, I feel like it like capsulizes that kind of day and like archives it, and you're really able, even if you didn't write about something in it, you're actually able to remember more of like what you did on that specific day, the interactions you had, maybe some feelings you had. I feel like it's such a beautiful way to kind of, like I said, like archive a day, and you can always remember it.
Well, the reality is, someone is going to do something and you are going to be upset by what they've done. And there's a high likelihood that you will do that same thing to someone else later in your life. And so the extent to which you can remember how someone else made you feel will give you a more heightened sensitivity to try to not make someone else feel that way later.
Ready to bring a small bit of happiness to your home? Anastasia and I have designed a series of happiness wellness products just for you. So this is Mission Small Bits of Happiness. It's got 100 unique and fun things to do to feel happier daily. And so the idea is you do a card a day to build happiness habits, to learn what brings happiness, and to connect with others or learn more about yourself. So Anastasia, do you want to grab a card?
Absolutely. Let's see. Move your body for 5 minutes. And there's even a 5-minute body break QR code right here. I know that definitely me and Mercedes will be watching that video right after this. And there's a little affirmation on here as well. My body shows up for me daily.
Aw, what an important reminder.
All right, let's put it back behind Mission Accomplished.
So it comes with 2 tabs to do and then Mission Accomplished to keep yourself and your habits organized. So you can shop Mission Small Bits of Happiness now. It's a fantastic gift or really great to do with your own family or friends, or even just for yourself to get to know yourself better. You can shop it now, linked in the show notes.
Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And a little bit of a shift in the conversation to your work, whether it's writing, whether it was in the restaurant industry or in the business that you're working in now. I feel like in life, whether it's in work or in relationships or, in school for teens, there's always like this pressure, whether external or internal, for perfection. And, we want to put out our best work so we can be proud of it, so others can be proud of us. But I'm curious to you, what is the difference between perfection and authenticity?
Gosh, that's a good question. So, okay, I am a perfectionist. I have OCD tendencies. I like everything to be just so. And one thing that I don't love is how people that aspire to do things as perfectly as possible are demonized a little bit. And I think they are demonized because of the damaging way that some high performers have acted and made others around them to feel. I think it is totally okay if you are an ambitious, audacious person who wants to be the very best, who wants to create the best version of something, to pursue that with every ounce of your being. I think that's beautiful. I think a chef I know said that obsession is a beautiful thing if you can grab it by the tail, right? If you don't let it consume you, obsession is beautiful. And you look at anyone who has changed the game, whether it's in sports or theater or art or tech, like they're obsessed. And I use the word unreasonable. I think you need to be unreasonable to see a world that does not yet exist. That said, when you become so focused on perfection that you lose your sense of self along the way, then it stops being authentic. And I think that the things that thrive, that succeed, are those that people can feel a connection to, and they require a point of view. They require feeling that there's a true human voice behind them. And so that is why authenticity is so important. But I don't think authenticity and perfection are enemies. I just think you need to carry both.
That's fantastic. I think you're so right with that, because if you are really passionate about any given, that avenue or any given goal, then that perfectionism is in a way authentic because you do have that deep care for it, like you genuinely do. And I think there is definitely a fine line between being consumed by something and just really, really wanting to have the best version of it in the world out there. And I really like what you said about how obsession is beautiful, because if you love something so much, like, why not give that to the world to share it with others? I think that's beautiful as well.
And I feel like others can always like feel the passion.
Yes.
Like other people can see how well something's been done because of how passionate.
Yeah, I mean, the key is to balance passion with compassion. That you can't become so obsessed and passionate about an idea that you stop becoming compassionate to the people that surround you along the way.
I love that. I think that's definitely so important
Some
to
good
remember.
words to live by.
And
yes.
I love the word unreasonable, and I know that that's the title of your book, Unreasonable Hospitality. And being unreasonable and giving people more than they expect, creating moments of happiness that people will never forget, is so amazing. Can you share a story of a time that you brought someone happiness from being unreasonably hospitable?
Yeah, I mean, we did it all the time in our restaurants, but honestly, the stories that I'm more inclined to share right now are the things that I've been on the receiving end of recently. Because I think, gosh, it is so fun to give these things, and it's so fun to receive them, and it's just as fun for me to celebrate the people that have done remarkable things for me in the recent past. There's a hotel in Palm Springs called the Breakers, and it's one of the nicer hotels in all of Florida. It's this beautiful old building that almost looks like a castle, and I was in Florida staying at a different hotel with my wife and my daughter. But the Breakers is celebrated for its key lime pie at the restaurant. And in my family, we travel for dessert. And so we went there just for the key lime pie. And as we're pulling up in our car, my daughter, who was 3 at the time, looked at the Breakers and she said, "Oh my God, Daddy, is that where Elsa lives?" Referring to Elsa of Frozen. And in a moment that I soon came to regret, I said, "Yeah, that is Elsa's house, babe. We're going to Elsa's house." So we walk into the hotel and she immediately says, "Well, let's go hang out with Elsa." And I said, "Okay, all right, well, let's go to dinner. We'll figure it out." So we get to the restaurant. And we're being brought to the table by the maitre d'. And I said to him under my breath, I said, "Hey, bud, I need you to do me a favor. In 30 minutes, will you please come to the table and tell my daughter Frankie that Elsa is actually out of town right now, but that she heard Frankie was here and that she sends her regards and she hopes that she'll be here the next time Frankie visits." He's like, "I got you." The guy does indeed come back 30 minutes later, but equipped with a bag. And he opens up the bag and he's got a tiara and a little princess wand, and he gives them to my daughter and he says, "Frankie, Elsa's so sorry that she's not here to see you, but she wanted me to give you these gifts." And I looked at my daughter's eyes, like there's this beautiful wonder that's hard to replicate in adults that you can find or create for children. It's this magic. For me, that is unreasonable hospitality. The magician duo Penn and Teller has a quote. He says, "Sometimes magic is just being willing to invest more energy into an idea than anyone else would reasonably expect." I have no idea where this guy got that stuff. I don't know if he went sprinting to a store in the middle of service, bought these 2 little toys, brought them back to the hotel, what he did, but he created a moment of magic. And it wasn't for me. It was for my daughter, but that was even better because sometimes I think the best way to love on people is to love on the people they love. Here's the thing about hospitality, though. As good as it felt for my daughter, Frankie, as good as it felt for me, I guarantee you that guy's day was so much better for having done that. I think hospitality is the most selfish pleasure. It feels unbelievably good to do kind things for other people. You talk about hacking your happiness. I think so often people talk about the way to hack your happiness is through self-care, which I agree with, although I feel like that is, in many cases, people have rebranded selfishness as self-care. just care only about yourself and that's the path to happiness. I don't agree. I think you do need to take care of yourself. You need to keep your pitcher full in order to have enough to pour into other people's glasses. And yet, I think the best way to receive is to give. And the more happiness you give, the more happiness you'll feel.
That's so beautiful.
I absolutely love that story with your daughter and Elsa. I think that's the sweetest thing. I love that. And I think you're so right in that hospitality and kindness is a two-way street, like that we feel happy. And in fact, we were speaking with a kindness expert like a while ago, and this reminded me of the conversation we had with her, because she shared the fact that like when you're kind to someone or when someone's kind to you, it not only makes you feel happier and the person who receives this kind action, but also the people around, like seeing another person happy. It reminds them of the goodness in the world and maybe even inspires them to do something small but nice in the day. And so I think it's really like this beautiful ripple effect that we can all contribute to, and it doesn't cost anything. It's really just about thinking a little bit about someone else and taking action for that.
Yeah. But hold on, what you just said is a very important distinction. It's about taking action. Plenty of people come up with really lovely ideas of things they'd like to do for someone else, and way too often they don't follow through. And so you're wise to add that part to the sentence, and it's a very important part to add.
Absolutely. And looking at the hotel and restaurant industry, what's a lesson or philosophy from how these places are run that we can apply to our own daily life?
I mean, so many. I mean, that's kind of the whole book, right? Is like lessons from restaurants and how they apply to the world at large. I think that just the name of the industry on its own. I think it does not matter what you do for a living. You can make the choice to be in the hospitality industry simply by choosing to care as much about how you make people feel as you do whatever product or service you're selling. And that's a hard thing for most companies to do, because in most organizations, what gets measured is what gets managed. What I mean by that is, if you can calculate the return on an investment, that's the investment that you make. It's harder to calculate a financial return on kindness, on making people feel good. But that doesn't mean it matters less. In fact, I believe it matters more, not just because it's the right thing to do, but I think it's the most valuable business decision you can make. At a restaurant, if you are kind to people, they reward you with their loyalty. That is a life lesson. Be kind to people and they will reward you with their loyalty.
I love that so much. And I feel like one example that this keeps reminding me of, and I think it's probably because you mentioned Elsa, but it's the Disney World effect, because I know that like they tell their staff members to do something that's like unreasonably hospitable, like give someone like a free fast pass, or if someone buys 2 churros, give them 3. And I think that really elevates the experience, because you are getting kind of a little bit of magic throughout the park, which makes you feel so much happier.
It's the magical kingdom. It better be magical, right? And it's not that hard to create magic. You just need to be willing to try a little bit harder.
Absolutely. It's like that intention, right, that we keep coming back to. It's like when you actually put in the effort, whether it's in your work or if it's in a relationship, like, or in, like, say you're writing a book or writing an essay, like just actually caring about that thing makes it so much more meaningful, and people can see that and feel that. And I absolutely adore it, that principle. And as someone who has led big teams, especially at restaurants in the past, where everyone has to work together for the end result to really come together, what are your top tips for how anyone can be a better communicator?
Well, first, just communicate. I think that's the biggest thing. And to do so, like to create systems that ensure consistent communication effectively. We would have a 30-minute meeting every single day right before we opened the doors and went into service. It's called pre-meal in a restaurant. It's called a daily huddle in other industries. And it's a meeting that far too many businesses waste because they treat it almost as a box that they need to check, a part of the day they need to get through, as opposed to recognizing the idea that if as a leader you seize on that as an opportunity to lead, to inspire, to connect everyone such that the collection of individuals comes together as a trusting team, unlocking a collective creativity and capacity, the impact on the culture is nothing short of profound. But the reason it happens consistently is because you say every single day for 30 minutes, we are going to gather as a team and communicate. It's about creating rules of communication, rules that govern how you constructively criticize one another. It's about creating systems that ensure praise is happening often enough. It's about all these things. I mean, it goes back to everything that we've been talking about the entire conversation, intention. It's about choosing what's important to you and creating the systems to ensure that it happens consistently. And I don't think that there is anything that doesn't apply to, but communication is one of them.
Yes, that's so absolutely true. Like being able to come together and reflect on what's going on, making sure everyone is kind of on the same page. I think so often we when we're, especially as we're teens and like learning how to communicate for the first time, we think that everyone is on the same page even without having said it. Maybe we all like observed a certain thing happen and we think everyone in our group like understands that we need to fix it, but if we don't actually like verbalize our thoughts, not everyone will know them. And I think that that's something that I've had to learn like through schoolwork.
Definitely.
And it's helpful even when I'm working with Anastasia on the podcast, like to have those skills of like say what you're actually thinking, because then
Absolutely.
everyone can actually
It can be so
understand.
easy to kind of fall into the pattern of like wanting your close ones to kind of like almost mind read you. Like you can see exactly what you're thinking, the emotions you're going through, and you know, maybe you're having like a hard moment or you're stressed out and maybe you're being like a little bit snappier. The other people will only kind of see what you're presenting instead of you saying, hey, I'm so sorry, like I'm just kind of in a moment right now. And you know, just kind of sharing that can really make the situation a lot better and make your relationship with the other person a lot better.
It's a gesture of hospitality so that people don't have to guess where you're at and think, wait, did I do something wrong? Let me ask you guys a question, because you read so often these days that people your age are struggling more and more with like basic communication because so many of your interactions happen digitally in a way that they did not for us. Whether, I mean, I see some of my friends' kids in some of their closest friends are people they've never met. They just play video games with them, or where very, very close friends spend most of their time interacting with one another over social media platforms or whatever. Do you find that there's less of a comfort with in-person communication, or is that just a bunch of old people saying dumb stuff?
I think, especially after COVID, the transition of like back and forth between like being at home for long periods of time to coming back to school was definitely, I think, noticeable for us. And then in terms of like now, a few years later, I feel like it's gotten much better. Like I think most people our age are pretty confident in communicating amongst each other. I think like maybe speaking to a big group has always been a challenge. I don't know, but I think
that's not different.
yeah.
I know that I was speaking with, I recently did a new experience where I was put in a place where I met a bunch of new people, and I know a lot of other people there also had no idea, like they hadn't come with friends or anything, and I'm fairly extroverted, so I just started like talking to some people, and I know that eventually later on they were telling me that they were like, I thought it was really great like when you started like talking, and I was really happy that like you started the conversation because I'm more of a shy person, and I personally wouldn't have gotten that because the way they responded was like very excited and seemed to be also very like extroverted, but they said that they were just themselves scared to start the conversation.
They needed you to open the door.
Yeah, I feel like that might just be though in like a new setting, new place. Because I know definitely that's something people have been saying, and I'm sure there's like good studies and statistics to show it. But
Absolutely.
I feel like from my school and my peers, like it's been pretty good with everyone like, you know, opening up and
definitely
conversing.
No, because I know COVID was hard for a lot of people, especially depending where they were at in their formative years when that hit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
I also
absolutely.
can appreciate those sometimes, like if I'm with like a group of friends, like making kind of like a phone stack where everyone puts their phone
Yeah.
on top of each other and it's like in the middle of like a table or something. And so
Do you all do that with frequency?
Yeah, me and my
yes,
friends used to do
definitely.
it too, especially when you're like hanging out at someone's house.
Or
and
if
you
you're
just
like a
wanna,
restaurant.
Yeah, restaurant, yeah.
Huh. Is that rare, though? I mean, also, not that many teenagers start big podcasts. So, like,
I don't know. Yeah, I used to do that all the time with my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's great. That's incredible, guys. Well done.
thank you. Yeah. On another note, I've heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong again, I've just heard this, the secret to happiness is having something to look forward to.
Yes.
I love that so much. I know we're the same. We always like pick a family bonding day like,
Yes.
every month to have something to look forward to, like whether it's going to dinner or going shopping or something like that, just to have something to like be excited about. So I love that. That's
Especially with
something-
school coming up.
Yeah, especially with that. But I love that that's something that you emphasize. But I feel like sometimes in day-to-day life, it can feel like there's nothing exciting on the horizon for people. So for you, how do you curate your life in having something to look forward to?
One caveat. I do believe that very strongly. And yet, it's something you need to be a little bit careful with, because if you're just looking forward to the thing that will bring you happiness, you don't work hard enough to find joy in the moment. And so I think you can do both if you work hard to balance them. I'm starting to sound like a broken record. Intention, right? Like I have friends that my best friends are still the people that I went to preschool and high school and college with. They're still the people that I'm closest to. And so with them, I mean, I can tell you November, January, March, and May, some number of us have something that we are all doing together in each one of those months. My dad, as I said, is very close, and I are very close. And I know I will see him this weekend. I will see him again in a month. We will be together for Halloween. We'll be together for Thanksgiving, for a few days around Christmas. Like, as long as, sometimes when you're very, very busy, you don't dedicate the time that is required to look ahead. And you can wake up and suddenly a year's gone by and you haven't spent time doing the things that you love with the people that you love. And if every once in a while you're like, okay, I'm going to take the next hour and I'm going to pick someone who I care about. I'm going to reach out to them and we're going to plan something that we love doing together at some point in the future. It might be 4 months from now, but we're going to get it on the books. And I think being intentional with your calendar is very, very important. And knowing that as hard as you work and as many distractions as life may put in front of you, you're still going to, at the end of every year, know that you invested time doing the things you care about with the people you care about.
I think that's so powerful. And I feel like a lot of the times we kind of expect for something to just kind of happen. Like if we have like a new friendship, we just kind of expect for that to grow as, you know, time goes by. And I feel like the good thing about school and maybe work is that you're constantly seeing that person every single day. And so it's easy for a relationship to grow. But if, let's say, you live in different parts of the city or the country, or if you don't go to the same school, it can be so easy for that relationship to kind of fall apart because, you know, you're not really speaking with that person very often. So, you know, realizing sometimes, oh, I haven't reached out to this person in a while, or we've kind of like fallen off, and trying to reach back out. And I love what you said about being intentional, like setting times for you to be with those people, because spending time with loved ones is really the best kind of time to look
But I
forward
also
to.
love how you highlighted, like, yes, like find things to be excited about, find times to spend time with the people you care about, but also, you know, be present in the moment and find joy in everyday life. And that's like what we're all about. Like, it's important to just be happy with what we have every single day, like the small things, whether it's, you know, the sunrise or like seeing your dog at the end of the day. Like, there's these good things that happen every day regularly that we should just focus on as well.
Absolutely.
Like, I think it's great to look forward to the weekend. but not if it means that you hate Monday through Friday. Like, there's so much good to find in every day, but you do need to look for it sometimes. Sometimes it's not easily found, but I think it's always there.
Definitely.
100%.
Now, taking a little bit of a twist in the conversation, let's talk a little bit about feedback from customers, critics. How do you receive feedback and not get too emotional about criticism?
Well, I think criticism is one of the most beautiful things in the world. I think people focus so much on praise that they forget about the fueling power of criticism. Because of praise is affirmation, criticism is investment. There are few things that you can do more powerful than being willing to step outside of your comfort zone for long enough to invest in someone else's growth, right? When criticism is expressed thoughtfully, that's exactly what it is. You're just helping someone get better. Criticism has been given a bad word because too many people do it so poorly, whether sarcastically or publicly or bitingly or emotionally. And so I think first it's just remembering that it's a good thing. If you're open to it, it will result in you being able to grow. I think it's also about just making the choice to be very emotional about whatever it is you do or who you are, but learning how to turn off the emotion in certain scenarios. If you're overly emotional when you receive criticism, you become defensive. And when you're defensive, it means that you're kind of a pain to give feedback to, which means that eventually people are going to stop giving it to you, which is another way of saying they are going to stop investing in your growth. But the final approach is I like to gamify everything in life. I believe the more you make life into a game, the more fun it is to play. And I like to think about life as a game that you can play. And in business, when someone's unhappy and they're giving you bad feedback, okay, now it's a game. Let's turn it around. And if you can, by the way, I mean, there's so much data on this. If someone comes into a restaurant, we don't make any mistakes, they leave happy, they are whatever % likely to return. If they come in, we make a big mistake, they're upset, but then we turn it around and they leave happy, they're 5 times more likely to return. The loyalty you earn from someone after a moment of repair is dramatically more than the loyalty you earn from someone if nothing ever went wrong. And so I think it's about getting excited when someone gives you feedback because they've now given you an opportunity to earn a much higher amount of loyalty from them. So long as you don't get so defensive that you make the situation worse.
Yes, absolutely. I think viewing feedback and criticism as an investment from someone else is such a mindset shift. And I know when I was younger, whenever we would write like essays in school, we would have to share it with people in our class. And I remember everyone would just say, oh, your essay is great, it's great, it's great, you know, can you read mine now? Because feedback is like a mandatory part before we can get it graded by our teacher. And everyone would just like kind of pass it around, maybe fix like, you know, a few things, spelling mistakes, but like it would be, you know, take like 20 minutes. And then I would go home and I would ask my mom to edit my essay. And I was like, everyone thought it was great. Like, this is such a good, like, I'm so proud of it. And she was like, she would edit it. And then there was a lot of corrections and I was upset, but then I realized like, okay, wait, these make sense. And like, I didn't spot that. And I'm happy that, you know, I'll get a higher grade because I got more feedback.
For sure. And by the way, the grade aside, now you're going to be a better writer.
Exactly. The best part about the way that our mom, she also helps us out with my essays. But the best part about what she actually does is it's not like, okay, I edited it for you, now you can just go and click yes on all of them and you can just kind of like blindly, like she tells us, okay, if I'm going to edit your essay, you are, like I'm going to look over it and then we're going to go through everything together.
Yeah.
And so you're going to tell me, does this edit make sense or not? Because if it doesn't make sense, there's no point in just accepting it. And then maybe your point was, you know, better, or we can talk about it. So that way we're both becoming better writers through her edits,
Yeah,
which
and
I think is really powerful.
And I think it just shows like when someone actually really cares and they give you actual critical feedback because they're more invested in you than people who just, want to kind of breeze through the class because they need the edits.
Yeah. By the way, it's a pain to edit an essay, right? It would be a lot easier to just be like, it's great, good. Now I'm going to go back to watching TV or whatever it is you're doing. It's an expression of genuine care. And it's sad to me when people have an inability to receive it well. Sounds like you have an awesome mom, by the way.
We
Yes,
do.
she is amazing.
I love her so much. And I think, the bottom line is like giving feedback and getting feedback and criticism is just like, it shows that this person actually cares about you enough to take the risk of like you being, kind of
Exactly.
upset. Hopefully not upset, but like potentially upset about what they have to say because they actually care about enough you and whatever you're putting out to like look at it and think about how it could be better. And I love your perspective on that. And so for the next question, we are huge fans of your show, The Bear. I love how you produced part of it, and you mentioned that you also wrote part of it, which I think is so amazing. Can you share with us any cool or funny stories from behind the scenes of producing The Bear?
I mean, it's just all the show is great. And it's not my show. Like this guy, Chris Storer, it is his show, and he's done an amazing job with it. And everyone that's involved with it is just awesome. Like when that show started, a lot of these people were big, but not who they are now, right? And watching whether it's Jeremy or Maddie or any of them, kind of continue to become more and more and more successful, but never like lose their humility or their ability to be silly and laugh, and it is really fun. I think what I love the most about that show is the episodic variation, how every episode is very, very different than the others. They don't allow, the show doesn't fall into a rhythm, which I think, by the way, frustrates people sometimes. I mean, in terms of funny things, I mean, it's like any team. I think that's the thing about a TV show. It's like any group of friends who feel really, really lucky to do something awesome together. Like, there's definitely moments in that show where it just feels like a bunch of kids just being silly until someone says action, and then everyone puts on their game faces and gets back to work.
That's amazing. I love that. It's great to have such a close community of people who all feel so similar and so passionate and driven towards something.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing about creating a TV show, there's so many different people that have spent their entire lives pursuing a specific discipline, whether it's the writers or the producers or the directors or the actors or the set designers or the costume people or the location scouts and everything in between. And when you put together that many passionate people who are also willing to put their egos to the side such that it's about the collective success, not their individual success, it is always remarkable to me what can happen.
That is amazing. I love that. People passionate towards something and being driven is so amazing.
Yes.
And
And
so
the end
powerful.
result is like this beautiful concoction of everyone's, the costumes, the editing, the writing, the acting, the producing. Like, I think it's so cool to see how everyone kind of adds a little bit and it comes together to this beautiful produced final product. And so now you're taking hospitality into new arenas. I've heard a resort, baseball stadium, the Bear on TV. So what's the driving kind of vision behind these projects?
The connective tissue is when I look at something and see an opportunity to approach it a little bit differently than other people have approached it. With that difference always being that it's a little bit warmer, a bit more gracious, more fun, more connective. Now, in terms of the projects we choose to take on, it's just basically whatever sounds awesome. I mean, I spent a majority of my life with a very linear focus. I wanted to go to Cornell. I wanted to open my own restaurant. Once I had my own restaurant, I wanted to become #1 in the world. Then I wanted to open a bunch more restaurants. I wanted to build a restaurant company. And now I have the grace to not be as linear and as focused. And if it's rooted in hospitality, if I get to do it alongside people that I like and can learn from, if it's going to be fun, that doesn't mean it can't also be hard work, but the hard work needs to be fun. And if I can make some money along the way, then it's something I'll do. So long as I don't do so many things that I lose the balance between the things I'm passionate about at work and the things I'm passionate about in life.
That's so amazing.
And I love the fact that, you used to have this kind of linear perception of what you wanted to do, and that now you have kind of come to the point where you're just taking on what sounds really impactful and awesome and kind of driving your message and your impact that way. And I think that's so admirable, and I absolutely adore it. And I can't wait to see where all of those go.
Thank you.
Sleep is so important. I've been using the amazing Manta sleep mask. The Manta sleep mask is 100% blackout, so you will get 0 sunlight in your eyes in the morning, as well as has an adjustable head strap so you can make it fit anyone, as well as it doesn't damage your lashes because it has these cups, and so if you open your eyes in the middle of the night, you're not going to damage your lashes because it's not directly onto your face.
It's also comes in a variety of different styles. There's a silk one, there's a regular one, and there's even one that plays sound to help you sleep, or maybe if you're going to be traveling a lot or someone in your house snores very loud, you have the nice sleep music to help you sleep better. This sleep mask is also a fantastic gift for teens, tweens, and adults, and you can shop it now, linked in our show notes.
Now let's get back into our episode. And now for kind of a fun question, take us behind the scenes at your restaurant. What does a night in the kitchen of one of the top restaurants in the world look like?
Or like while you worked there,
Yes.
before you left.
It's not as intense as it's not as angry. It's, if anything, more intense, but it's not as like loud and frenetic and crazy as it is often perceived on TV shows. I mean, one of the best kitchens in the world. It is a quiet, sincere, driven, passion-filled environment. You speak when you need to speak. There's a respect between the people cooking the food and those serving it. It gets frenetic, like it gets busy at times. But at the best restaurants, you process through the crazy moments by becoming more calm, not less calm. The kitchens in the best restaurants in the world are basically occupied almost 24 hours a day, even if you're only open for dinner service, because that's how long it takes to prep many of the ingredients that we serve. And in my kitchen, there were probably 40 people working at any given time. So there's a lot of people working tirelessly and investing a pretty ridiculous amount of energy to make things delicious and beautiful and to come off as effortless. And you do all that work, by the way, like some of those dishes can take, gosh, I don't even know. Like you think about between the farmer and then the prep cooks and then the chefs and then prepping, like just an absurd amount of time only to be consumed in a few bites. But if those bites feel like a little magical moment in the ordinary course of someone's life, then that's what makes it worth it.
I love that. That's so beautifully put.
Yes, thank you. And I love how, your perspective on, even if it takes all this hours and people to get there, like just a small bit of happiness, a small moment of magic in someone's life, like that is all worth it. And I think that is just such a beautiful perspective, because sometimes I think, even doing something small can seem like a lot of work, even though it's obviously nothing compared to the efforts that, the restaurant industry goes through for those elite restaurants. I think that's just a reminder to like, going out of your way for someone in your life, or going out of your way for yourself, for your goals, for something you want to put out in the world is worth it, because you know what, like it's worth making an impact. It's worth giving someone even just a little bit of happiness or a message that you think is important for them to know. And if there's a teen who's listening to this right now or is interested in someday being a restaurateur, what would be your starting advice for a first step?
just go find the best restaurant you can and start working there from the ground up. It's that simple. Like, if you want to do it, just start doing it, and start doing it early, because to everything I said before about leading with empathy, you can't do it unless you've actually walked a mile in the shoes of the people you're leading. Not to mention the fact that it's a hard business, and unless you really understand what goes into it, it's very hard to succeed. But if you do really understand what goes into it, I think it's one of the greatest businesses in the world.
I love that so much.
Just get started.
Yes. And now we have another really fun question. If you could invite anyone, living or dead, to have dinner with, who would it be and why?
I mean, it would be my mom, for sure. But if it's not my mom, I've been asked this question so many times, and no matter how many times I answer it, I always have a hard time with it. I'm reading Hemingway right now. I'm quite fascinated by him in this exact moment. But, I mean, Elvis? Like, I'm kind of struck by the lives of people who were so significant a long time ago when the world was just different than it is now. Now, but ultimately, final answer, my mom.
I love that.
That's so beautiful, 100%. I think, there's so many incredible options of people out there who've made an impact on the world. Hemingway, Elvis, like just to name a few, but I think the people closest to us, our parents, our loved ones, like they make the biggest impact on us and our world. And so I think that's very beautiful.
Or like a great-great-grandparent. Like, I love whoever it was in my family that immigrated to America first. I'd love to have dinner with that guy or that girl. Like that would be fascinating to me.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And something that we love to ask everyone on our podcast is, what's one piece of advice you wish you could give to your teenage self?
Oh, whatever it is you're worrying about, stop worrying about it. I mean that half sincerely. Like, don't stop worrying about it. Every emotion is real, and you shouldn't pretend that they aren't. So many of the insecurities, in hindsight, are just silly. And I do not wish that my experience was any different than what it was, because then I wouldn't be exactly the person I am now. But all the little things that I stressed about, which in hindsight were just, in the grand scheme of things, somewhat irrelevant. Life is long. Do good things will happen. And don't let people kind of take your joy along the way.
Incredible.
I love that.
I love that. Don't let other people
So
take your joy.
beautiful.
Definitely.
Amazing. And what is something that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
Oh, well, I have 2 young kids now. And whenever I am home, in the morning, I come downstairs. I'm always the first person awake. I make myself a coffee. I sit in the library to have that coffee. And eventually, they will come downstairs. And they both take about 20 minutes to fully wake up. And so they kind of zombie walk across the room and just snuggle with me. And when I do wake up in the morning, before everyone else does, that's when I'll catch up on email and kind of get my act together for the day. And the moment they get down there, I just toss my phone off to the side and just settle into that moment.
That is so sweet. I love that so much. How old are your kids?
4 and 2.
Aww. That's like our age gap.
Yes.
I hope that one day they will be as close as the 2 of you are, at least in this moment.
Yes. No, we've definitely
Absolutely.
We've never had a huge, conflict between us, but we definitely are closer now than we were a few years ago. Yes. Cool. And as a final question, do you have a motivational quote you love and remember? And if so, why?
Oh, yeah. So this paperweight, which my dad gave me when I was a kid, and it's still on my desk today, it says, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" I just think it's an amazing question. And if you're willing to answer it honestly, and then throw yourself wholeheartedly into accomplishing whatever that answer is, it can call you to greatness. And that doesn't need to always be like this crazy, audacious, ambitious answer. But to give yourself the grace to dream big and freely, recognizing that we're all capable of much more than we think, so long as we are very patient in our pursuit. You can talk things into existence.
I love that. I think that's a question that we should all ask ourselves.
Definitely.
And, answer honestly, like you were saying, because sometimes we don't even know until we really take a second and actually think about it. And I absolutely love that. And I just want to say thank you so much, Will, for all of your time today. Where can our audience find you if they want to keep up and learn more?
I'm on Instagram at Guidara. I do a newsletter every 2 weeks called Pre-Meal, which you can sign up for at unreasonablehospitality.com. And then through my books, Unreasonable Hospitality, or my new book is available for pre-order, and that is called Unreasonable Hospitality, The Field Guide, which is available wherever books are sold. Guys, I got to tell you, it's really cool to meet the two of you, and gives me faith in the world to see your relationship, and this was a great interview. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much to Will for joining us today.
Speaking with Will was so inspiring. I love his deeply personal message and story, and just how much he really cares about the people in his life and about his work. Anastasia, what was your biggest takeaway?
Definitely to be intentional in everything you do, in every aspect of your life. Be intentional with your time, your friends, your passion, everything. And I think that definitely I'm going to try to put more intention into everything I do. How about you?
Me too. And one of the biggest things I took away from today is the importance of going out of your way for other people in your life. Small things, big things, really even just being present in the conversation means a ton more than sometimes we even think. So I think that's something I want to do more in my life. It's just really be going out of my way for people, my friends, my family members, and I think it's important. If you enjoyed this interview, we think you would love our conversation with Dr. Kelly Harding. She's the kindness expert that we mentioned during this conversation with Will, and she walks us through how she became a doctor, the effects of kindness on our health, as well as hacks on how we can be kinder to both ourselves and to other people.
It turns out it's not just receiving kindness, and it's not just giving kindness, it's also observing kindness. All those parties have a benefit.
You can listen to our conversation with Dr. Kelly Harding now. It's linked in our show notes.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. It really helps others to also know that this is a great podcast to listen to.
Also, bring us a small bit of happiness by following this podcast on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now. When you follow us, which is, by the way, 100% free, it really helps us keep Hack Your Happiness improving and growing and getting better with each and every episode. See you next time!